My dad laughed at me for going to therapy. Then my younger sister brought up his erection pills. Dad's generation doesn't believe in mental health. That's what he told me when I mentioned I'd started seeing a therapist for anxiety that had been affecting my sleep and my work performance for months. We were at his birthday dinner at his favorite Italian restaurant, surrounded by extended family who'd driven hours to celebrate him turning 60, and he decided to turn my vulnerability into entertainment for the whole table. He announced loudly that his son was paying someone $100 an hour just to listen to his feelings, then asked if I also paid people to tie my shoes and wipe my nose. My aunts and uncles laughed uncomfortably, not sure if they were supposed to join in or defend me. My mom looked mortified, but said nothing, just stared at her plate like she wished she could disappear. I sat there burning with humiliation, while my dad continued his commentary about how his generation dealt with problems by working harder and pushing through, not whining to strangers about their childhood. My 16-year-old sister Megan watched the whole thing in silence from her seat at the end of the table. She'd always been the quiet one in our family, observing dynamics without participating, taking mental notes that she rarely shared with anyone. But something about Dad's cruelty that night flipped a switch in her that I'd never seen before. She waited patiently until dessert, when Dad was basking in the glow of his birthday cake and the attention of the whole family singing to him. Then she asked him, very casually while he was cutting his first slice, if he thought it was embarrassing to need help with personal problems. Dad puffed up with pride and said real men handled their own issues without running to professionals every time life got hard. Megan nodded thoughtfully, like she was genuinely considering his wisdom, and asked if that included physical issues too, or just emotional ones. The table went quiet as everyone sensed something was coming. Dad looked confused, not seeing where this was going, and said he didn't understand the question. Megan pulled out her phone with deliberate slowness and showed the screen to our grandmother sitting beside her, asking innocently if this was Dad's name on this prescription bottle she'd found in the bathroom cabinet last week. It was a photo of his erectile dysfunction medication, with his full name clearly visible on the pharmacy label. Dad's face went from confused to horrified in about 2 seconds flat, his fork clattering against his plate. Grandma squinted at the phone through her reading glasses and read the medication name out loud, asking what it was for since she'd never heard of it. Megan, with perfect deadpan delivery that would make any comedian jealous, explained that it was medicine for when men couldn't perform in the bedroom without chemical help. She asked Dad if paying a doctor and a pharmacy for that was somehow different from paying a therapist for anxiety. The silence was absolutely deafening. My mom covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide. My aunts exchanged glances loaded with years of unspoken opinions about my father. Dad's brothers suddenly found their plates very interesting and wouldn't look up. Dad tried to stammer that it was completely different, that physical issues were medical and legitimate, while therapy was just talking about feelings. Megan asked calmly if anxiety wasn't also medical and legitimate, since she'd learned in health class just last month that it involved brain chemistry and neurotransmitters, same as any other organ malfunction. She said it seemed like Dad was perfectly okay asking for help with some body parts, but thought other body parts should just figure it out on their own, which seemed pretty hypocritical when you really thought about it. Every word was delivered calmly, matter-of-factly, like she was presenting a school science project to bored classmates. Dad opened his mouth several times, but had absolutely no response that wouldn't dig him deeper. He left his own birthday party early, claiming he suddenly wasn't feeling well and needed fresh air. Mom apologized to me privately in the hallway and said Dad had been deeply embarrassed by his condition for years and was clearly projecting his shame onto others who sought help openly. She said she'd tried to get him to see a therapist himself, but he'd refused every time. Megan found me in the kitchen loading dishes and said she couldn't stand watching him humiliate me in front of the whole family for seeking help when he had his own medical secrets hidden in the bathroom cabinet. I hugged her tight and told her she was absolutely terrifying, and I was deeply grateful to have her as a sister. She just shrugged and said someone had to defend the family members who were actually trying to be healthy, instead of hiding behind toxic masculinity and outdated ideas about what real men do. Dad called me 3 days later with the closest thing to an apology he's ever given in his life. He said maybe therapy wasn't as stupid as he'd made it sound, and he was sorry for embarrassing me at dinner.